morning. Hello. Hello. Got splashed in the eye. Felt great. Felt great. Awesome. Honey water right in the eye. Hamlin Towns in Brunswick, my famous Hanover city. The river Weser, deep and wide, washes its wall on the southern side. A pleasanter spot you never spied. But when begins my ditty, almost 500 years ago, to see the townsfolk suffer so from vermin was a pity. Rats, they fought the dogs and killed the cats, and bit the babies in the cradles, and ate the cheeses from the vats, licked the soup from the cook's own ladles, split open the kegs of salted sprats, made nests and then Sunday hats, and even spoiled the women's chats by drowning out their speaking with shrieking and squeaking in 50 different sharps and flats. At last the people in a body to the town hall came flocking. "'Tis clear," cried they, "our mayor's a naughty, and as for our corporation, shocking, to think we buy gowns lined with ermine, for dolts who can't or won't determine what's best to rid us of our vermin. You hope because you're old and obese to find in furry civic robes ease. Browse upstairs, give your brains a racking, to find the remedy we are lacking, or sure as fate will send you packing." At this the mayor and corporation quaked with the mighty consternation. An hour they sat in council. At length the mayor broke silence. "For a guilder I'd my ermine gown sell. I wish I were a mile hence. It's easy to bid one rack one's brave. I'm sure my pocket aches again. I scratch it so, but all in vain. Oh, for a trap, a trap, a trap." Just as he said this, what should happen? At the chamber door, but a gentle tap. "Bless us," cried the mayor, "what's that?" With the corporation as he sat, looking little through wondrous fact, nor brighter were his eyes, nor moister than a too long opened oyster, save when at noon his paunch grew mutinous, for a plate of turtle green and glutinous. Only a scraping of shoes on a mat, anything like the sound of a rat makes my heart go pit-a-pat. "Come in," cried the mayor, looking bigger, and in did come the strangest figure. His long queer coat from heel to head was half yellow and half red, and he himself was tall and thin, with sharp blue eyes each like a pin, and light loose hair and swarthy skin, nor tuft of hair on cheek nor beard on chin, but lips where smile went out and in. There was no guessing his kith or kin, and nobody could enough admire this tall man in his quaint attire. Quoth one, "It's as my great-grandsire, starting up at the trump of doom's tone, had walked this way from his painted tombstone." He advanced towards the council table, and "Please, your honor," said he, "I am able, by means of secret charm, to draw all the creatures living beneath the sun, that crawl or swim or fly or run, after me so as you never saw. And I chiefly use my charm on creatures that do people harm, the bull and toad, newt and viper, and people call me the Pied Piper. And here they notice round his neck a scarf of red and yellow stripe, to match with his coat of self-same check. And that scarf's then hung a pipe, and his fingers they notice were ever straying, as if impatient to be playing upon this pipe, as low it dangled over his vesture so old-fangled. Yes, said he, Pied Piper as I am, in Tartary I fred the cam. Last June from his huge swarms of gnats, I eased in Asia the Nizam, of a monstrous brood of vampire bats. And as for what your brain bewilders, if I rid your town of rats, will you give me 1,000 guilders? 50,000 was the exclamation of astonished mayor and corporation. Into the street the piper stepped, smiling first a little smile, as if he knew what magic slept in his quiet pipe the while. Like a musical adept to blow his pipe, his lips he wrinkled, and green and blue his sharp eyes twinkled, like a candle flame where salt is sprinkled. And ere 3 shrill notes the pipe uttered, you heard as if an army muttered, and the muttering grew to a grumbling, and the grumbling grew to a mighty rumbling, and out of the houses came the rats tumbling, great rats, small rats, lean rats, brawny rats, brown rats, black rats, gray rats, tawny rats, grave old plotters, gay young friskers, fathers, mothers, uncles, cousins, cocking tails and pricking whiskers, families by tens and dozens, brothers, sisters, husbands, wives, followed the Pied Piper for their lives. From street to street he piped advancing, and step for step they followed dancing, until they came to the river Weser, where it all plunged and perished, save one who stout as Julius Caesar, swam across and lived to carry, as he the manuscript he cherished, to rat land home his commentary, which was, at first shrill notes up the pipe, I heard a sound as of scraping tripe, and putting apples wondrous ripe, into the cider presses bright, and the moving away of pickle top boards, and leaving a jar of conserve cupboards, and the drawing with corked train oil flasks, and breaking hoops of butter casks, and it seemed as if a voice sweeter far than by harp or by Solari's breed, called out, oh rats, rejoice, the world is growing to a vast dry saltery, so munch on, crunch on, take your lunch on, breakfast, supper, dinner, lunch on, and just a bulky sugar punch on, already staved like a great sun shone. Gracious, scarce an inch before me, just as methought it said, come for me, I found the Weser rolling over me. You should have heard the Hamlin people ring the bells till they rock the steeple. Go, cried the mayor, get long poles, poke out the nests and block up the holes. Consult with carpenters and builders, leaving our town not even a trace of the rats, when suddenly up the face of the piper perked in the marketplace. The first, if you please, my 1,000 guilders. 1,000 guilders. The mayor looked blue, so did the corporation too. For council dinners made rare havoc, with claret, moselle, vin de gras, top, and half the money would replenish the cellar's biggest butt of Rhenish, to pay the sum to a wondering fellow, with gypsy coat of red and yellow. Besides, quoth the mayor with a knowing wink, our business was done at the river's brink. We saw with our eyes the vermin sink, and what's dead can't come to life, I think. So, friend, we're not folks to shrink from our duty of giving you something to drink, and a matter of money to put in your coat. But as for the guilders, what we spoke, of them, as you well know, was in joke. Besides, our losses have made us thrifty. 1,000 guilders, come, take 50. The piper's face fell, and he cried, no trifling, I can't wait beside. I promise a visit by dinner time, Baghdad, and accept the prime of the head cook's potage. All he's rich in, for having left in the caliph's kitchen, of a nest of scorpions, no survivor. With him I proved no bargain driver. With you don't think I'll bait a stiver. And folks who put me in a passion may find me pipe after another fashion. How, cried the mayor, do you think I brook, being worse treated than a cook, insulted by a rival, with idle pipe and vesture piebald? Threaten us, fellow, do your worst, blow your pipe there till you burst. Once more he stepped into the street, and to his lips again laid his long pipe and smooth straight cane, and ere he blew 3 notes, such sweet soft notes as yet musicians cunning never gave the enraptured air. There was a rustling that seemed like a bustling of merry crowds justling at pitching and hustling. Small feet were pattering, wooden shoes clattering, little hands clapping, and little tongues chattering, like foals in a farmyard where barley is scattering. Out came the children running, all the little boys and girls, with rosy cheeks and flaxen curls, and sparkling eyes and teeth like pearls, tripping and skipping ran merrily after. The wonderful music was shouting and laughter. The mayor was dumb and the council stood as if they're changed of blocks of wood, unable to move a step or cry. To the children merrily skipping by, could only follow with an eye that joyous crowd at the piper's back, and how the mayor was on the rack, and the wretched council's bosoms beat as the piper turned to the high street, where the western rolled its waters, right away with their sons and daughters. However, he turned from south to west, and to Culpeper healed his steps addressed, and after him the children pressed, there was joy in every breast. He never crossed the mighty top, he's forced to let the piping drop, and we shall see our children stop. When lo, they reached the mountainside, a wondrous portal opened wide, as if a cavern was suddenly hollowed. The piper advanced, and the children followed. And when all were in to the very last, the door in the mountainside shut fast. Did I say all? No, one was lame, and could not dance the whole of the way. And in after years, if you'd blame his sadness, he was used to say, "This dull in our town since my playmates left, I can't forget that I'm bereft of all the pleasant sights they see, which the piper also promised me. For he led us, he said, to a joyous land, joining the town in just at hand, where waters gushed and fruit trees grew, and flowers before the fair grew, and everything was strange to me. The sparrow was bright as a peacock here, and the dogs outran our fellow ears, and honeybees had lost their stings, and horses were born with eagle's wings. And just as I became assured, my lame foot would be speedily cured, the music stopped, and I stood still, found myself outside the hill, left behind against my will, to go now limping as before, and never hear of that country more. Alas, alas, for Hamelin, there came into many a burgher's pate, a text which says at heaven's gate, opes to the rich at as easy rate, as the needle guide takes a camel in. The mayor said east, west, north, and south, to offer the piper by word of mouth, wherever it was men's lot to find him. Silver and gold to his heart's content, only he'd return the way he went and bring the children behind him. But when they saw 'twas lost endeavor, the piper and dancers were gone forever. They made a decree that lawyers never should think their records dated duly if after the day of the month and year these words do not as well appear. And so long after what happened here on the 22nd of July, 1376, the better in memory fixed, the place of the children's last retreat, they called it the Piper Street, where anyone playing pipe or tabor was short for his future lose his labor, nor suffered they hostelry or tavern, shop with mirth, and solemn, and opposite the place of the cavern, they wrote the story on a column, and on great church window painted, the same to make the world acquainted, how their treasure was stolen away, and there it stands this very day. And I must not admit to say, that in Transylvania there's a tribe of alien people who ascribe the way and dress of which their neighbors lay such stress to their fathers and mothers having risen out of some subterranean prison into which they were japanned a long time ago in a mighty band out of Hampton towns and Brunswick land, but how or why they don't understand. So, Lily, let me and you be wipers of scores out with old men, especially pipers. And if they should pipe us free from rats or from mice, if we promise them aught, let us keep our promise. Hello. My name's Steve and I'm baking bagels. Montreal style bagels. My first thought was he lied in every word, that hoary cripple with malicious eye, askins to watch the working of his lie on mine, and most scarce able to afford suppression of the glee. The person scored its edge at one more victim gained thereby. What else should he be set for with his staff? What save to waylay with his lies and snare old travelers who might find him posted there? And asked the road, I guessed what skull-like laugh would break, what crutch can write my epitaph for pastime in the dusty thoroughfare. If at his counsel I should turn aside into ominous tract which all agree hides the dark tower, yet acquiescently I did turn as he pointed, neither pride nor hope rekindling at the end descried, so much as gladness some end might be. For what with my whole world wide wondering, what with my search drawn out through years, my hope dwindled into a ghost not fit to cope with that obstreperous joy success would bring. I hardly tried now to rebuke the spring my heart made finding failure in its scope. As a sick man very near to death seems dead indeed, and feels begin and end the tears, and takes the farewell of each friend, and hears one bid the other go, draw breath freelier outside, since all is over, he saith, and the blow fallen no grieving can amend. While some discusseth near other graves be room enough for this, and when a day suits best for carrying the corpse away, with care about banners, scarfs, and staves, and still the man hears all and only craves, he may not shame such tender love and stay. Thus I had for so long suffered in this quest, heard failure prophesied so oft being writ, so many times among the band to wit, the knights who two dark towers search address their steps, that just to fail as they seem best, and all doubt was now should I be fit. So quiet as despair I turned from him, that hateful cripple, out of his highway into the path he pointed. All the day had been a dreary one at best, and dim was settling into its close, yet shot one grim red leer to see the plain catch its stray. For mark, no sooner was I fairly found, pledged to the plain after a pace or two, than pausing to throw backward a last view. Over the safe road 'twas gone, grey plain all round, nothing but plain to the horizon's bound. I must go on, naught else remained to do. So on I went. I think I never saw such starved ignoble nature. Nothing throve, for flowers as well expect a cedar grove, but chortle and spurge, according to their law, might propagate their kind with none to awe. You think a burr had been a treasure trove. No, Penry inertness and grimace, in some strange sort were the land's portion. See or close your eyes, said nature peevishly. In nothing skills, I can't help my case. 'Tis last judgment's fire must cure this place, calcine its clods and set my prisoners free. If any ragged thistle stalk pushed above its mates, its head was topped. Its vents were jealous else. What made the holes and rents the dock's harsh swarth leaves, bruised as to balk all hope of greenness? 'Tis a brute must walk, pashing their life out with the brute's intents. As for the grass, it grew as scarce as hair and leprosy. Thin, dry blades pricked the mud, which underneath was kneaded up with blood. One stiff, blind horse, his every bone a stare, stood stupefied however he came there, thrust out past service from the devil's stud. Alive, he might be dead for aught I know, with red, gaunt, and callous neck astrain, and shut eyes beneath the rusty mane. Seldom went such grotesqueness with such woe. I never saw a brute I hated so. He must have been wicked to deserve such pain. I shut my eyes and turned them on my heart, as a man calls for wine before he fights. I asked one draught of earlier, happier sights, ere fitly I could play the part. Think first, fight afterwards, soldier's art. One taste of old times sets all to rights. Not it. I fancied Cuthbert's reddening face, beneath its garnished tur of curly coal. Dear fellow, till I almost felt him fold. An arm in mine fixed me to that place. The way he used, alas, one night's disgrace, outwent my heart's new fire and left it cold. Giles, then, the soul of honor, there he stands, frank as 10 years ago when knighted first. An honest man should dare, he said he durst. Good, but the scene shifts. Fall one hangman's hand, pinned to his breast a parchment. His own band reads it. Poor traitor spit upon and cursed. Better this present than a past like that. Back therefore to my darkening path. No sound, no sight as far as the eye can strain. Will the night send a howlet or a bat, I asked, when something on the dismal flat came to rest my thoughts and changed their train. A sudden little river crossed my path, as unexpected as a serpent came. No sound, no sight, no tides congenial to the glooms. This is a froth by, might have been a bath, for the fiends blowing too, to see the wrath of its black eddies be spat with flakes and spoons. So petty yet so spiteful, all along low scrubby alders kneeled over it, drenched willows flung them headlong in a fit of rout despair, a suicidal throng. The river which had done them all the wrong, whatever that was, rolled by, deterred no whit. Which while I forded, good saints, how I feared to set my foot upon a dead man's cheek, each step or feel the spear I thrust to seek, for hollows tangled in his hair or beard. It may have been a water rat I speared, but ugh, it sounded like a baby's shriek. Glad was I to reach the other bank, now for a better country, vain presage. Who were the strugglers? What war did they wage? What savage, whose savage trample could thus pad the dank soil to a plash? Toads in a poisoned tank, or wild cats in a red-hot cage. Flight must sow a seed in that foul surf. What penned them there with all the plain to choose? No footsteps leading to that horrid muse, none out of it. Mad druids set to work, their brains no doubt like galley slaves a Turk pits for his pastime Christians against Jews. You want to work with me? We're hiring. Come and work with me. I will put you to work. Yes. Yeah, we're always hiring because we're an unstoppable force of growth. Oh, Algeria. Oh, yeah, you'd have to relocate. I don't know. I don't know. That'd be quite the commute. Algeria to Vancouver. Help me out. I don't know. How can I help you come here? You should apply for. You should immigrate here. We'd love to have you. Well, I'd love to have you. I don't know. I can't speak on behalf of my government. I think they're fairly welcoming right now, though. Hopefully you can get in. We need people like you to work jobs like this. I don't know. We definitely need you to come here. I think this job should qualify as highly skilled labor. But I don't know if my government would agree with that. So I consider this highly skilled labor. I'm sure you could become a highly skilled laborer and work with me if you'd like. Yeah. Yeah, I'd love to help you out. I don't know. Maybe if you apply for the job, we could sponsor you. You can apply online if you'd like. I think Canada does have temporary foreign worker permits. I don't know how you get one of those. like you watch all those Syrians and Algerians and people fleeing crisis, conflict and crisis in their countries, and or economic hardship, and like just don't see any reason why they shouldn't be allowed to come here. If you're willing to work, you deserve to live in a peaceful country. They'll respect your human rights. Canada seems to be a place that's like that. Hopefully it'll stay like that. Well, obviously I can't help you right now because I'm working. So, I mean, I don't know, dude. I don't know, dude. My first thought was he lied in every word, that hoary cripple with malicious eye, askance to watch the working of his lie on mine, and mouth scarce able to afford suppression of the glee that pursed and scored its edge at one more victim gained thereby. What else should he be set for with his staff? What save to waylay with his lies and snare all the travelers who might find him posted there? And ask the road, I guessed what skull-like laugh would break, what crutch can write my epitaph or pastime in the dusty thoroughfare. If at his counsel I should turn aside into ominous track which all agree hides the dark tower, yet acquiescingly I did turn as appointed, neither pride nor hope rekindling at the end describe, so much as gladness some end might be. For what with my whole world wide wondering, what with my search drawn out through years, my hopes dwindled into a ghost unfit to cope with that obstreperous joy success would bring. I hardly tried now to rebuke the spring, my heart made finding failure in its scope. As a sick man very near to death seems dead indeed, and feels begin and end the tears, and takes the farewell of each friend, and hears what bid the other go, freely or outside. Since all is over, he saith, and the blow fallen no grieving can amend. While some discuss if near other graves be room enough for this, and when a day suits best for carrying the corpse away, with care about banners, scarfs, and staves, and still the man hears all and only craves, he may not shame such tender love and stay. Thus I had for so long suffered in this quest, heard failure prophesied so oft be writ, so many times among the band to wit, the knights who to dark towers search and dress their steps, that just to fail as they seem best, and all doubt was now should I be fit. So quiet as despair I turned from him, that hateful cripple, out of his highway into the path he pointed, all the day had been a dreary one at best, and dim was settling into its close, yet shot one grim red leer to see the plain catch its stray. For mark, no sooner was I fairly found, pledged to the plain after a pace or two, than pausing throw backward a last view, over the safe road 'twas gone, great plain all round, nothing but plain to the horizon's bound. I must go on, naught else remained to do. So on I went. I think I never saw such starved ignoble nature. Nothing throve, for flowers as well expect a cedar grove. but chortle and spurge, according to their law, might propagate their kind with none to awe. You'd think a burr had been a treasure trove. No penury, inertness, and grimace, in some strange sort were the land's portion. See or close your eyes, said nature peevishly, in nothing skills. I can't help my case. 'Tis last judgment's fire must cure this place. Calcine its claws and set my prisoners free. If there pushed any ragged thistle stalk above its mates, its head was chopped. The bents were jealous else. What made the holes and rents in the dog's harsh forest leaves? Bruised as to balk all hope of greenness. 'Tis a brute must walk, pashing the life out with the brute's intents. As for the grass, it grew as scarce as hair and leprosy. Thin, dry blades pricked the mud, which underneath was kneaded up with blood. One stiff, blind horse, his every bone astare, stood stupefied however he came there, thrust out past service from the devil's stud. Alive, he might be dead for aught I know, with red, gaunt, and calloped neck strained, and shut eyes beneath the rusty mane. Seldom went such grotesqueness with such woe. I never saw a brute I hated so. He must have been wicked to deserve such pain. I shut my eyes and turned them on my heart. As a man calls for wine before he fights, I asked one draught of happier, earlier sights. Ere fitly I could hope to play the part. Think first, fight afterwards, the soldier's art. One taste of old times sets all to rights. Not it. I fancied Cuthbert's reddening face beneath its garniture of curly gold. Dear fellow, till I almost felt him full. An arm in mine to fix me to the place. That way he used, alas, one night's disgrace, outwent my heart's new fire and left it cold. Giles, then, the soul of honor, there he stands, frank as 10 years ago when knighted first. An honest man should dare his head be durst. Good, but the scene shifts. Thaw what hangman's hand pinned to his breast a parchment. Poor traitor spit upon and cursed. Better this present than a past like that. Back therefore to my darkening path. No sound, no sight as far as the eye can see. Will the night send a howlet or a bat, I asked, when something on the dismal flat came to arrest my thoughts and change their train. A sudden little river crossed my path, as unexpected as a serpent came. No sound, no sight as far as the eye could strain. Will the night send a howlet or bat, I asked, when something on the dismal flat came to arrest my thoughts and change their train. A sudden little river crossed my path, as unexpected as a serpent came. No tides congenial to the glooms. This is a fraught by might have been a bath of the fiend's blowing. To see the raft of its black eddies be spat with flakes and spoons. So petty yet so spiteful, all along low scrubby alders kneeled over it. Drenched willows flung them headlong in a fit of rout despair. A suicidal throng, the river which had done them all the wrong, whatever that was, rolled by, deterred no whit. Which while I forded, dear saints, how I feared to set my foot upon a dead man's cheek. Each step would feel the spear I thrust to seek, for hollows tangled in his hair or beard. It may have been a water rat I speared, but ugh, it sounded like a baby's shriek. Glad was I to reach the other bank, now for a better country, vain presage. Who were the strugglers? What war did they wage? What savage trample could thus pad the dank soil to a plash? Toads in a poisoned tank, or wild cats in a red-hot cage. The fight must so have seemed in that foul cirque. What penned them there with all the plain to choose? No footsteps leading to that horrid muse. None out of it, vain presage. None out of it, mad druids set to work their brains, no doubt, like galley slaves to Turk. Pits for his pastime, Christians against Jews. And more than that, a furlong on, why there, what bad use was that engine for that wheel, or brake not wheel, that harrow fit to reel men's bodies out like silk, with all the air of Tophet's tool. on earth left unaware or brought its rusty teeth or brought to sharpen its rusty teeth of steel. Then came some stubbed ground, next wood, once a wood, next a marsh it would seem, now mere earth, desperate and done with, so the fool finds mirth, makes a thing and mars it, till his mood changes, and off he goes. Bog, clay, and rubble, sand, and stark black dirt. Now blotches rankling colored, gay and grim. Now patches where some soil broke into moss or substances like oils. Then came a palsied oak, a cleft in him, a distorted mouth that splits its rim, gaping at death and dies while it recoils. As far as ever from the end, not in the distance, but the evening not, to point my footsteps further at the thought, great black bird, Apollyon's bosom's friend, sailed past, nor beat his wide wings dragon pen, that brushed my cap, perchance the guide I sought. For looking up aware I somehow grew, spite of the dust, plain given place all round to mountains, with such names to grace mere heights and heaps now stolen in view. How thus they surprised me solve at you. How to get from there was no clearer case. Yet half I seemed to recognize some trick of mischief that happened to me, God knows when. Here ended then progress this way, when in the very nick of giving up one more time came a click, as when the trap shuts, you're in the den. Burningly it came upon me all at once. This was the place, those two hills, crouched like two bulls locked horn in fight, while to the left a tall scout mountain, Gun's daughter a-dozing at the very nuts, after a lifetime of training for the sight. What in the midst lay but the tower itself, the round squat turret, blind as a fool's heart, built of brown stone without a counterpart in the whole world. The tempest's mocking elf points to the shipman thus the unseen shelf. He strikes on only when timbers start, not sea, because of night perhaps. Why day came back for that, the dying sunset kindled through a cleft, the hills like two giants in the hunting lay, chin upon hands to see the game at bay. Now stab and end the creature to the heft. Not here, when noise was everywhere, it told, increasing like a bell, names in my ears, of lost adventurers, my peers, how such was strong and such was bold, and such was fortunate, yet each of old, lost one moment now the woe of years. There they stood, ranged along the hillside, met, to view the last of me, a living frame, for one more picture in a sheet of flame. I saw them and knew them all, and yet, dauntless, the slughorn to my lips I set, and through, child rolling through a dark tower came. Thanks for watching. gonna end it early. Have an excellent morning.